Hello, listeners. Welcome back to SocioCast'20, in actor Hansraj's very own podcast series. Over the last 2 weeks, we've had some of the greatest minds on board with us discussing the impact of this deadly pandemic on the various fragments of this society. Today, we have a very special episode lined up for you. We will talk about something which not only holds significance for small cap enterprises, startups, but also budding college societies who wish to sustain and scale their projects. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, today we are here to discuss the impact of COVID 19 on the corporate social responsibility budgets. To shed more light on this interesting topic, we have with us Mr. Harbhajan Singh today. Mr. Harbhajan Singh has served as the Director of Corporate and General Affairs at Honda Motorcycle and Scooters Private Limited. He has also worked at Tata Steel for over 30 years as the Joint Director of Center for Research and HRD. He has also completed his Masters from XLRI Jamshedpur during this time. Currently, he is the Chairman of the Corporate Social Responsibility and Affirmative Action at Confederation of Indian Industry, Northern Region. He is also the Chief of Strategy and People Care at SGT University, Gurugram, and the President of Haryana chapter of Federation of Indian Industry. Without further ado, I would like to hand over to my co-host for today, Mr. Sarthak Agarwal, to begin with our question answer segment.
Thank you so much, Gitanj. We welcome you, sir. Thank you for taking out time and being here with us. It's an absolute honor to have you amidst us. Right, sir. So, starting with the podcast and talking about the topic, you have amazing expertise and experience with respect to corporate social responsibility. So, before coming on to the specific questions asked by our audience, would you like to tell us more about the corporate social responsibility funds? How the corporates use it, what projects are undertaken, what sectors they indulge in, and lastly, the impact of COVID 19 on the CSR activities and where the CSR is being channelized?
CSR has been practiced by the industry from the time immemorial. I think since the industry has come into existence, taking care of the society has always been the intent over and above making the profits. India is the only country in the world where CSR is mandatory. If you go by the law, all industries which are making profits and there are criterias, like you all know of that, and based on that criteria, those industries which fall under that criteria, for them it is mandatory to spend 2% of the average net profit of the previous 3 years. So that is the law which is in place. So CSR is something to which the industry has been pushed to, and they have to do as a mandate of the state in order to run their business. And there is the activity report. There is to be a committee which is to be constituted directly under the supervision of the board, which decides on the activities and keeps track of the expenditures being done and also assessing the impact. Now, if you see, since this act has come, more than 10,000 crore rupees have been flowing into the CSR domain from the industrial houses, means big or small, but it has been a big push, big investment which has come from the industry in terms of social domain or social amelioration. Now, there are United Nations has declared some SDG goals. So all the companies who are spending, especially the big ones, which are the OEMs and all, they choose among these sustainable development goals. Normally the automobile companies and all, for them safety is a priority, it is their moral responsibility. So like we as a Honda had been doing a lot of safety activities. Now I was the chairman for the CSR committee, which was the part of the board. Means we were 5 directors who were the part of the board, and we were all board members who were monitoring and looking after the CSR domain. So for us, predominantly we had focused on safety. Like I would be happy to make you aware that in the last year we took a project of making 18 girls commercial pilots, 2019 pass out girls who had passed out from government schools. Then we did a project called Harit Udan, in which we had created self-help group of the people who were having lands. We, collated their lands and we financed them with the plantation of fruit trees, which were which were hybrid fruits, and the fruits were coming within a span of 2.5 years and so. So that self-sustaining activity, we give one push and then they gradually move into the self-sustaining agriculture domain. So these type of things which were unique in their perspective, we did. So, means the government schemes are there, many things can be done. We took up one project in a village called Dabri Kalam in Sirsa. What we did, we spent something like 1.5 or 1.7 crores there. It is a village which is of weavers. So we took that community hall there. We got in touch with the local panchayat and we gave them Japanese weaving machines and trained them. Now the produce which is getting made there is same or very close to the quality of big brands like Monte Carlo and all, and that we created an eco cycle that produce can be purchased by some government agencies or armed forces, whether police or others, so that whatever they produce can be marketable. See, you have to create an ecosystem so that once a person whom you are supporting, it should get converted into his earnability quotient. Because if he just learns a thing and if he cannot convert that knowledge into a earning quotient that he can start earning by the use of that knowledge, then it will go as a waste. So our focus had been things like that, and then so whether it is a area of education, whether it is a area of safety, whether it was a area of rural development, what has happened is, Sarthak, you will be surprised that there is a lot of convergence of CSR funds now in the area which has emerged during COVID. See, like the topics, the things that I was discussing were the before BC, if I say it was before COVID, not before Christ. Huh? So it was before COVID. So what has started happening once the COVID pandemic has broken out? This pandemic, since it has come, there has been a lot of focus to help the people who were in requirement of food. This pandemic, since it has come, there has been a lot of focus to help the people who were in requirement of food. There was a lot of focus on providing, personal protective equipments to the people. And then there was also a request from the Prime Minister's office, PM Care, to donate. So you would have witnessed that a lot of money went from the industry to the PM Care Fund. So, the luxurious items or the business of comparison or showing to people that I am wearing a watch of 2 lakh rupees, मैंने तो राडो पहन रखी है, I am riding on a big car, मेरी गाड़ी तुम्हारी गाड़ी से लंबी क्यों, and all that will go for a 6. From maximization of luxuries, people will revert back again to minimal requirements of life, and this is going to bring a change in the focus of life for the generation which has to now move ahead along with the COVID. May not be in the same level, but even in a reduced proportion, it is going to stay over there, and that is where the CSR is getting channelized. Most of the money is going into the supply, into feeding people, into supplying personal protective equipments, into helping the people to educate them how to protect themselves and how to protect the others.
The commercial pilots thing, it was, an amazing thing to hear, and how you're empowering women. And sir, talking about the SDGs, we at Enactus also follow the same model of, fulfilling maximum SDGs, be it reduced poverty, be it zero hunger. So I'm glad, sir, that the companies are moving forward with such so good ventures, and we just hope that the negative impact of COVID-19 is low for the CSR sector. So, sir, here's the first question that our listeners would love to know the answer to. So, how can social organizations find the right companies for availing the CSR funds during these times, during COVID times, given they need funds, and they need funds to run their social activities?
I will put it in three words rather, by approaching them. See,
Okay.
doing is happening. You have to keep on knocking the door of these companies, and your proposal should be very authentic, self explanatory. It should clearly specify the objective, the costs involved in taking forward the project, and the impact of that expenditure. If you work out a model where whatever proposal you are pitching in talks about the objective, the costs involved, and the impact, and the processes, how you will monitor it. So if everything is in right perspective, see, big companies do not have too much time to hear or go for a 10-page proposal and all. So keep it crisp, make it to the point, make it objective, and make it understandable.
Right,
एंड
sir.
देन इट डिपेंड्स कि कई बार लोगों के पास धन नहीं होता है देने को, और कई बार धन होता है पर मन नहीं होता है देने को. So both the things are required. So you will basically have to, keep on trying, and then your work speaks for yourself here. If you do so, if you means what you have done in the past and the goodwill that you would have generated through your activities will speak for itself. And then those who are inclined to your mind, inclined to your mindset, and they want to help in the same area, like you are working in the area of population or making toilets and things like that. So if somebody is inclined to work in that direction and he is convinced that you are doing a good work, I don't think that funds are a problem.
Right, sir. Right, sir. Because many organizations had this question,
Yeah,
because they find it difficult to pitch, and this
yeah.
was another question, right? How to pitch perfectly, and you've given some amazing insights, like just be authentic, and work will speak. Right, sir. So moving on, as you mentioned about PM Cares, we've all been reading about PM Cares, and it's really in the air. So. Just a question, are corporates choosing PM Cares over the social organizations as their CSR activities? I mean, if
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
why are
Many
they doing so?
organizations are choosing for the reason, like many organizations do not have the infrastructure to extend the support to the ailing community. So when there is a call from the highest office in the country, so they choose going that way, and a lot of money has gone in the PM care.
Right, sir. Right, sir. Because we come across every company almost investing in money in PM Cares, and social organizations vouch their concern. Right, sir. So coming to the next question, sir, we see that some companies are reducing their manpower, and I recently read about this being a debate that the salaries paid to contract employees should be treated as CSR activities. So what is your take on that, sir?
See, my take does not matter because the Ministry of Corporate Affairs has already clarified that this cannot be done.
Okay.
You cannot divert the CSR funds for paying the wages of your employees. That has been already made clear by the Corporate Affairs Ministry.
Right, sir. Right, sir. Because the unorganized sector is somewhat in shambles, but again, it's good to have a clarity on that. Right, sir. So now we come to a very important question, sir. I personally feel strongly about it. We all do, because we are related to the education sector, and you talked about it as well. So, sir, many NGOs are working on the same, and the pandemic has kept the underprivileged kids out for school for about 3 months. So, with minimum access to to e-learning platforms and digital illiteracy. Do you think that the corporates providing CSR should increase focus in revamping this field?
See, it is something I would say first things first. When there is a question of survival of life, then see initially what happened. Please try to understand the youth needs to understand the objectives of the actions that have been taken. A sudden lockdown of the nation was. So industry as such was already in a difficult stage, and over and above Corona came, and over and above from the humanitarian angle, it was required to pay the salaries. As I said at the outset, everything comes from where? Everything comes from profit. Money is not coming in, business is not working. So you are eating up your reserves and paying it through salaries, paying up the fixed costs. So eventually what is happening is that your industry is getting more and more sick. It is getting into that debt trap. From here to bail it out is not easy. See, we have to generate wealth before distributing wealth. And the cycle of economy had come to a stop. So what has happened is aviation industry going for big loss. And then let me give you some perspective of economics. Government has a revenue. One side it is revenue, where the money comes to the government and where the money is spent by the government. See, there are three components. GST is paid by the people who transact the material. Another component is corporate tax. In the past, government has brought down the corporate tax maybe to 15%. And the third component is personal tax, which you and I pay as an income tax. The sum total of these three components is 82% of the total money which the government receives. So 82% of the money which goes into the government coffers comes from these three components. And what is the total government revenue? 30 lakh thousand crores. India government's total revenue is 30 lakh thousand crores. What are the expenditures? 24% of this goes in servicing the interest burden of various loans which we have taken from World Bank, IMF, this, that, for the development of our country. 22% goes in the salaries of the government employees. 11% goes in compensations. So there is a 64% component of the expenditure which is more or less fixed. You can't stop paying salaries, you can't stop paying the interest, you can't stop paying pensions, and then there are other areas which are called subsidiaries which you pay, and development. So these are the only two areas which will come under the crunch. On the revenue part, the receipts will be less, production will be less, GST will be less. Profits of the corporates will be less, so the corporate tax will be less. We will be losing jobs in the industry. We will lose our incomes as individuals, so personal tax will be less. So what eventually is happening is, my dear friends, that the economy is shrinking. And when the economy shrinks, it creates turbulence in the lives of its citizens. See, which is the largest economy in the world? United States of America. 24 point something, closer to 25 trillion US dollars. Which is the second largest economy of the world? China. 15.76% is China. Which is the third largest economy? Japan. 6 point some percent. Fourth, Germany. Fifth is India. We being the fifth largest economy, still we are struggling. The reason is our PPP, which is called purchasing power parity, in comparison to many nations in the world, is relatively very low. So what is happening is that the consumption cycle, once it gets disturbed, so when the money will not come, how will it get transferred? पैसा रहेगा तभी तो वो बांटा जाएगा, पैसा रहेगा ही नहीं तो बंटेगा क्या? गरीबी बंटेगी केवल.
Right. Right, sir. So the creation of wealth is, sir, very important, as you rightly mentioned. You mentioned some interesting figures and facts which we as students of economics would really love to know, and we totally resonate to the fact. And many sectors are impacted, as you said, sir. Aviation, be it the film industry, and first things first, sir. Health, of course, should be the priority at the moment, as we're suffering from the pandemic. Right, sir. We come to the final question asked by our audience, and many of them resonate to it because the question revolves around college societies. So many college societies in the development sector take CSR funds every 2 to 3 years and use it to run their impact-driven projects assisting the underprivileged society. So, what are the alternatives they should look forward to their projects have come to a halt. So how should they go about it? Many of them really wanted to know.
See, my dear friends, first is that you have to think out of box. The sources that you had been dependent on till date may not come to your rescue anymore. Maybe you will have to go to general public by advertising on radio, by advertising it through print, or by connecting people 1:1 to support the projects. See, earlier what was happening, maybe you were going to a corporate house or to a company which was giving a big chunk of money and you were running your project. So your energies were focused only on running your project. Now you will have to share a part of those energies to create resources to run those projects. Otherwise, those projects will die natural death.
Right, sir. Right, sir. It's very important for people to think out of the way, and for the college guys here who are going to listen to this to take a good stand for running their projects. Right, sir. With this, we come to the end of the podcast. We had very apt and honest answers, and also a really good conversation. We're glad to have touched upon so many crucial points in this podcast, which will certainly benefit our target audience. On behalf of Enactus Hansraj, I thank you, sir, for taking out time and being with us. It has truly been an absolute privilege to host you and get your excellent insights on this topic. We hope that times change for the better. Industries and social organizations are back up and running, as you said, and hopefully we can actually physically meet and do something good for the society. So, sir, any final thoughts you would want to leave our audience with?
I only want to say as my final thoughts that this time too shall pass away. So don't panic. Have confidence in yourself, and I look forward towards a great future for the youth of the nation. Our average age in the country is 25 years now, my dear friends. All the societies, all the nations in the world are aging nations. We are the growing nation. We have youth. We have energy, and we can change the course of the world, being the leader for the future. And concludingly, I will say that jidhar jawani chalti hai, udhar jamana chalta hai. So whichever way you guys will steer this world to, that will become the reality of the world. Thank you very much for inviting me. God bless you.
Thank you, Sarthak, for this very insightful question answer segment. If you liked the episode, do tune in, like, share, subscribe, and do not forget to spread the word. With this, we come to an end to SocioCast'20. We hope you've liked listening to us throughout these 5 episodes. To sum it up, listeners, we are all in this together. While this pandemic has reshaped the world, real estate will always have a demand. No matter how much the world changes, the banking industry and the education sector will adapt. And in case you wish to start your small project, just don't forget to send a detailed proposal to Companies for CSR. On that note, we hope to meet you soon with yet another series of episodes discussing important issues with eminent speakers, creating awareness in SocioCast'21. On behalf of the entire Enactus Hansraj team, this is Gitansh Bhatia thanking you for giving us love and support and listening to our very first podcast series.